Welcome to a broadcast of Thursdays with Sheriff Todd Baxter. Each week with host Dom Genova, Sheriff Baxter has short discussions on topics you know and want to know more about, or don't know and should know. Here is Sheriff Todd and host Dom.
Well, welcome everybody to another edition of Thursdays with Sheriff Todd Baxter, and our guest today is Sheriff Todd Baxter. Go ahead.
It's almost like perfect.
Almost like perfect.
I'm in the title and I'm here.
So in all this time, we've never really talked about you. Let's talk about you. Okay. So,
Yeah.
And the question I like
It's not an intervention, is it?
No, it's not an intervention. You know, the question I always like to ask, I do on the radio show all the time, is what did you want to be a officer since you were like 10 years old? Or is this like something you changed to, or,
No,
or what? Was it a straight line?
No, this job was a godsend. I'm a man of faith, and to be quite frank, I never wanted to be a police officer. Grew up in the city
Really?
of Rochester. I used to throw snowballs at police cars and run like hell in the city. And somehow I went down to take I didn't know what I was going to do after high school. I was totally lost. I didn't have a lot of direction in my life. I went to the Army recruiter. I was planning on going to the Army and took the ASVAB test. The test shows how intelligent you are. And here's a slew of jobs you can do in the Army because you scored this high. And
Yeah.
I seen a canine officer, a military police canine officer, asked the recruiter, "Can I do that?" And he said, "Sure, you can do that."
Really?
Yeah, he gave me the
That's
big
cool.
10-4 on that. And
Yeah.
Never had a dog. I've been doing this for 40 years, still haven't had a canine. But it did bring me into the military police corps of the Army, which I was surrounded by people that always wanted to be cops when they were growing up.
Yeah.
And that was a stepping stone job for them. And I left the Army after 3 years of doing military police work and took my first civil service test, scored 100 on it. And like I said, I didn't have much direction in high school. You read my letters I used to write home from Korea to my wife, Mary. They were almost illiterate, right? And yeah, to get 100 on the civil service test is the point I'm making. This job's a godsend. And I fell in love with law enforcement. I fell in love with cops. I fell in love with the idea of helping the people that are in difficult places. And I don't like bullies, so it was a great thing to do there.
Good,
so so it kind of led me to, I never dreamed of being a cop.
No, I say all the time on the radio show that I wish people could see the guest's face when they talk, and there's joy in your face. I mean, you're where you're supposed to be, doing what you're supposed to be doing. It's kind of cool, right?
What a blessing that is, right?
Oh yeah.
Do that for a living.
Well, Jack Palvino said that if you love what you do, you don't work a day in your life.
Right.
And that's true. But obviously you're good at it too. The thing that is kind of impressive with somebody in your position, no matter who it is that you have to deal with so many different things. It's not only catching people and throwing them in jail, but it's also the politics of it and leadership and you said you have what, 1,200 people working for you?
Yeah, about 1,200 employees when you take in the civilian staff and contractors. Yeah.
And how many around carry? Let's put it this way: how many around carrying guns? I mean, how many?
Just a little under 1,000.
Wow.
Just a little under 1,000 when you look at it. I have a jail
So you don't
bureau.
have a lot. There's not a lot of administration there, all told.
Well, we have
as far as a percentage of people.
Oh God, no.
there's really
Yeah,
not
a lot of people look at us like
administration.
sometimes we're top heavy, but we're really not. When you do the
that's what I mean.
ratio and you look at other corporations and stuff, we're not very top heavy.
Yeah.
And if you take the amount of incarcerated individuals, it's about 700 people.
Yeah.
Any given day, I'm responsible for about 2,000 people because I'm responsible for them too, right?
Right.
So, it's a big organization, about $200 million budget. So it's a big organization.
Now, well, that's a good question. The 200 million, what comes from where?
As far as the funding?
Yeah. Is it mainly state, mainly local? I mean, what does it do?
By far, the majority is county taxpayers.
Okay.
We receive quite a bit of money from state, usually via grants and grant applications. We do get some money from the federal government, but again, it's most often via grants. Homeland Security gives us grants to do border patrol and put our boats up there, make sure no one's sneaking stuff across the border illegally. We do DWI grants from the state to do DWI and traffic enforcement. So a lot of it's, but the majority of it's, I always say local people are paying for local policing.
Where do you get your management skills from? Is it formal courses, books you've read, motivational, whatever?
Yeah. Well, I think
how do you do it?
The number one thing I think is scar tissue, right? Scar tissue. If you're smart enough to say, shit, that hurt, don't do that again, and you're smart enough to learn from it, that's where you become your best leadership. I mean, sometimes it's trial and error, but I study a lot of books. I love Maxwell. I do a lot of reading with Stephen Covey. I've taught Stephen Covey stuff, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People for years. In my organization, when someone gets promoted, I usually hand them a Stephen Covey book, say, it's easy read, just go home and read this at your leisure. There's not going to be a quiz, but it's helped me out tremendously in my personal life and my professional life.
Yeah.
The United States Army. You know, I rose to the rank of Master Sergeant, and each time you go through another rank, you get promoted. You get the schooling that goes with that. But you learn a lot about communication skills, discipline, values. The Army gave you a lot in leadership.
You got to be tough-minded, but not tough. I mean, it seems
That's
like
a good way to put it.
It seems like that's the aura that you have. You know, it's that you're a nice guy.
Yeah.
You know, you seem to be pleasant to be around, and you know, but you have to be a hard ass too.
Yeah, I mean
really,
there's nothing suckier than terminating. I love cops, and I've had to fire cops. I've had to arrest a cop, and that is, in my world, that's absolutely the last thing you would ever want to do. But the other part of that time is I try and just love on cops. And we're not a perfect leader, and it's not a perfect organization. None is. We're humans. But man, I just want them to know when I shake their hand, I'm being as sincere as possible. I appreciate you.
Well, one of the things you said in one of our interviews years ago is that one of the challenges is the honor in the job, and it's not what it used to be.
Yeah,
and that's got to be rough.
Yeah, 2020 rocked our world, right? It really did. It took us to, I called it our Vietnam. You know, where we took these guys and gals that were proud Americans back in 1945. They won freedom for the world, right? And ticker tape parades. Just 20 years later, we're spitting at these poor guys. Most of them drafted, and calling baby killers, right? And same thing, 9/11, we were heroes running into towers, and now, just 20 years later, it seems like we're being spit at and thrown down the alley. So my job now is to build these guys back up. It's part of my job, and part of my calling is why I'm running. Why are you running for sheriff again? We got a little more work to do to bring the honor and nobility to policing back.
Well, that's the other thing. I can't. It's hard for me to believe that we have a system where sheriffs and judges both get elected.
Yeah.
I mean, you're supposed to be impartial. I mean, it's not like you look at somebody and say, "Oh, they're this or they're that." I mean, what the hell difference does it make? You know, I mean, it really doesn't.
And I love the concept of an elected sheriff from the standpoint I directly report to the people. I don't report to politicians, right? I don't report to Adam Bello, the county executive. I don't report to the governor. I report to the people. So if they don't like the way I'm doing my job, they got total authority to kick me out.
Well, that's true.
Which I think the Constitution of the state of New York thought that out and said, let's make the highest law enforcement official elected to the people. But the other side of it, you have to go through a political process.
Oh, my Lord. Yeah, raising
and
money.
I just said I don't work for politicians, but I got to raise funds. I got to go to political committees. I got to get swayed one way or another, which is part of the checks and balance system, but it's difficult. It's very difficult to be neutral, be law enforcement, yet have to go through a political process.
Well, thank God you have bourbon and bacon to...
when all else fails, just make fundraising fun.
Anybody that doesn't know, do you do, how many of those fundraisers do you do a year?
We do one a year. The Baxter Bourbon and Bacon.
We just had that a few weeks ago. But Baxter Bourbon and Bacon. But that's not what the BB stands for. Well, maybe that's what the BB stands for on your logo.
On your logo.
It wasn't planned that way, though. So with that, we got to know Sheriff Todd a little bit more today. So come back next week.
Okay, I will.
Why don't you do it on Thursday?
We should call it that.
Yeah, we should call it that. Okay, gang. See you next week.
Thanks for listening. Please like and share. We'll be making more.